Welcome to the Helix Hour, brought to you in part by Design39 Media. Visit design39media.com for all your website, photography, and video production needs. Microphones for the Helix Hour are provided by Rode Microphones. Now, let's talk some Helix.
Move it this way.
There we go. Hey, everyone. Happy Thursday to everybody. We had to take care of some notes. Welcome to the Helix Hour. We are live, and it's going to be the Helix 25 minutes tonight. We've got Eric Klein here directly from Line 6, briefly, because he's got a meeting at 4 o'clock Pacific time. So, Eric, nice to have you back. How are you today?
How's it going, Eric? It's been serenity now.
Yes.
Great. Well, it's been really good today. So.
Congratulations to you and to all your fine team there. It's a very big day, product release day. Tell us what what you released today.
Today we released something very, very small. It is a stomp box the size of 2 tube screamers or a Strymon Big Sky that has effectively a Helix engine built in.
Fantastic.
So it's limited to 6 blocks on purpose. So it's meant to be a pedal. It's not meant to be, let's just cram as much as we can into here and see how complicated we can make this little thing. It's meant to be super elegant and simple and portable and obscenely convenient and sound identical to Helix in every way other than the 6 simultaneous blocks.
So who is this for? Who would you say is a prime candidate for this device, pedal?
Well, that was the trick. It's designed for everybody.
Okay.
So if you look at the entire pie of guitarists, the modeling section is very small. So we're very vocal, we're very fanboyish, we argue and debate constantly online, but we're really it's tiny, and to really attract and really resonate with traditional guitarists who are using pedals and amps, and that's a lot of us here at Line 6. Again, I have my favorite amps, I have my favorite pedals. We needed something that would fit on a pedal board.
Perfect.
And to really bring the love of Helix and the care and all of the work that we've done in this platform onto pedal boards, we had to make a pedal, and that's why. We've had people say, please make a smaller Helix, but ripping off the treadle and ripping off a few foot switches doesn't do us any favors. It doesn't do our dealers any favors because, again, you're selling now to even smaller section of that modeling pie. Gotcha. So you're missing out on all the pedal board guys. You're missing out on the guys who want a tabletop pod that's going to fit on their cramped table that's already filled with drum machines and mixing consoles and controllers and that sort of thing. So size was really, really important from the very beginning. And one of the early goals is we wanted it to fit in that top pocket on Helix backpack. And yeah. I think Dale made that pocket smaller than it could have been.
Okay, so it's a little tight.
Like, now we got to make it smaller, guys. And it was a good 3 or 4 months of doing nothing but iterating and redesigning the boards. And we got Marcus involved and we got head of engineering involved. And we went back and forth forever because it had to be this big. It had to be this big or smaller. And we finally did it. But when you make something that small, you end up with all sorts of noise problems. So it had to go through compliance a bunch of times, and we kept tweaking the layouts, and it ended up sounding as good as Helix. And that was the other big goal too, was it had to sound identical to Helix. So it had to have the same A to D converters, had to have the same op amps, it had to have the same impedance circuits on the inputs, it had to have the same transparent level shifting, it had to do all of these things. And if it didn't sound like Helix, then it's not worthy of the HX moniker. So
that's right. It had kind of some big shoes to fill, or at least resemble.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. To give you an example of size, I don't have Stomp here, but like you talked about the size of it. So I've got Stomp, and then here's your Big Sky. Look at the difference. So you said it's about the size of a Big Sky?
Yeah. So I have HX effects here next to HX Stomp, so that'll give you an idea.
Fantastic.
So
very nice footprint. Now I'm already seeing people talking about comparing or combining it with HX effects. free up some DSP and things like that? Is that something that some people may do?
Oh, absolutely. That was one of the use cases we knew was really important to people too. So, I'm a big fan of Fractal. I'm a big fan of Kemper. I'm a big fan of the guys at Atomic. And I would never say, no, buy Helix instead, because you love what you love, right?
That's right.
And it's tough. And you see people online constantly jumping back and forth between different modelers, and it almost feels like jumping back and forth between different DAWs. It's like if you learn one and you love it and you know how to dial it in, don't mess with a great thing.
Exactly. Don't feel it's not broke.
One of the cool things here is, it was also a big advantage of the size, is once it's that small, you can almost treat it like a DSP expansion box.
Yeah.
So throw it in the effects loop of your Kemper. Even in the diagrams, we drew a Kemper because that's how we expect people to use it. So if you love your Kemper, and Kemper's an awesome product, profiling is genius. But if you're curious, you're like, hey, I've heard great things about Helix and HX models, and some of the effects are really cool. I wish I had that, but I don't want to have to learn this whole other thing. Throw it in the effects loop, and it's like now you have all of the Helix stuff in your Kemper, or your Fractal, or your Atomic, or anything.
That's right. I think that's a perfect analogy. Some people just don't want to bring an extra big piece with them, whether it be a Helix control or the actual floor or LT, whatever. So that's really, really cool. Here's a question in the chat, and I think I know the answer to this. Tinman says, if I'm playing this through headphones, or if I'm playing this through headphones out, how can I integrate backing tracks? That'd be through the send and return as an auxiliary, wouldn't it?
Yes. So the headphones can feed. From the headphones, you can hear either the main path or the aux path.
Okay.
So or path B. So if you feed path B, your click track or your backing track, you'd be able to hear it from your headphones, and then that would be fed out the send.
Okay.
So don't quote me.
No problem.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of stuff in there, and we're all kind of big, like, I don't know if anybody's seen the video with Dom, but Dom is using full Helix for monitoring backing tracks, and my friends in Spotlights are using Helix for monitoring backing tracks and triggering Ableton Live and doing all sorts of stuff as well. So, so that's the kind of stuff that's really kind of close and near and dear to us. So
good.
So if it doesn't do that, we'll make sure that routing is coming.
Okay, perfect. I was talking with a fellow last night. Obviously, he's a huge promoter, advocate of Helix. Chris Robertson from Blackstone Cherry. You know how much he loves using Helix, and it's the last two albums were all Helix. And he wanted something small. I think he said he was doing a gig with his dad's band. I guess his dad's a musician. I didn't know that. But we were chatting for about at least an hour last night. And he goes, he was just about ready to order something else. And I didn't tell him what was coming, obviously, because I got to keep my mouth shut. But he was about to purchase. I said, can you just give me one more day? Just don't make a purchase. Don't get your credit card out. Wait until tomorrow. And he did. And he's very happy. This is a perfect thing for him to go jam with it. Like, I mean, this is, Chris Robinson on playing massive stages around the world with Helix every night. But now will serve his purpose 100% for what he's doing.
Yep.
Yeah,
very cool.
That's very cool. I have a couple questions I wrote down here too, and I'll try my very, very best to get some in the chat as well. This is from one of our mutual friends, Aaron Short Music. He's a great dude. And I think he really wants to do some things cool with this with acoustic guitar. Sure. But here's one of his questions. He says, is the input impedance still adjustable, and what are the outputs? We know about the outputs already. We've discussed that. But is the input impedance still adjustable?
Yes. In fact, it has two impedance circuits,
okay.
More so than Helix and Helix LT, because both left and the right inputs have impedance circuits. They're ganged, so you can't control them independently. But yes, they do. Okay,
that's perfect. And one thing I discovered earlier today too was, people were asking about this. There's always going to be some people, it doesn't have this, doesn't have this. You're never going to get past that. And people are saying, it doesn't have XLRL, but kind of it does. They're balanced out, which you could go tippering sleeve to a balanced microphone cable, couldn't you?
Correct.
Awesome. Yep. Another one answered. So he's also asking, which I know the answer to this, but he's asking, it does have a looper, and yes, it does have a looper, correct?
It does. It has the same one-switch looper from HX Effects and the other Helix lines. So it's just a one-switch looper. However, if you happen to have a Morningstar or some sort of MIDI controller, if you're using a DAW sequencer, you can actually access all of the extra functionality that you get in the 6-switch looper in Helix. So you can do octave up, octave down, reverse forward, that sort of stuff as well, but only via MIDI. So
Okay. And what version of firmware ships? Is it 2.6 and is it HX ready right out of the box?
no, it ships with 265.
Okay.
Which is only the production firmware, so there's no 265 for the rest of the family.
Gotcha.
270 should hopefully be out next week, and that is going to support HX Edit. So there'll be a new version of HX Edit
Gotcha.
that supports HX Stomp,
Okay.
and there will be new firmware for HX Stomp that will support HX Edit. So you have to update both for it to work.
Gotcha. That's a very good tip because sometimes people forget that they'll update firmware over here and they got the old editor or whatever, vice versa. So very important to follow that. Another question. This is kind of a common question people are asking too. Power supplies, about the same size power supplies, which was with HX Effects.
Yep. So it's big.
Okay.
It's big. We talk about it in the FAQ. Just like any other sort of higher end studio gear. I mean, you have a dangerous D-Box monitor controller. It's a single rack, but it has this honking huge external power supply because that's tied indirectly and directly to audio fidelity. So it helps with, I'm not an engineer, but it can help with clocking. It helps, with noise. I mean, there's, signal to noise ratio, all of that stuff is tied directly to the power supply. So the cheaper, chintzier, smaller power supplies, we wouldn't get the same fidelity and the same sound quality we get from Helix. That was also a lot of the testing that we had to go through. So if we put it together and we could make it all that small and it sounded exactly like Helix right off the bat, it would have been out 4 or 5 months ago.
Yeah.
But making something this small is really difficult. It's easy making a pedal this small. Making a Helix this small is really hard.
I can't believe it. And actually, you described it almost as an octopus. So if you have a bunch of things all hooked up to it.
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And that would be a task in itself. And his last question is, so first of all, so about the power supply too. So if it's the same one, if you got a couple in your gig bag and you're using HX Stomp one night, effects the next night, can you interchange the power supply? Same one?
It's the same DC3G.
Okay, perfect. That's good to know as well.
And it does work with the Strymon power supplies, and it's working with another one of the Voodoo Labs too. It's in the FAQ. I can't remember exactly which one.
Yep.
And we're going to start buying other power supplies and okaying them and that sort of stuff. And we don't want to put the onus on our end users, but I'm sure our end users are going to hook them up and try stuff as well. And they'll be sharing that stuff. There's just a lot of circuitry crammed in that box, so it's not like, oh yeah, you can just use any cheap little power supply. It has to be burly.
Yeah.
And you also find that some of the smaller, less expensive power supplies, you may notice the noise goes up too. The Strymon power supplies are awesome. We found that the noise specs are about the same as our own DC3G, which is really, really impressive. So I'm always pushing the Zumas. And I know Phil is using an Ohio. He's using you have to use the 2 outputs because it requires at least 2 amps, but I'm sure that list of approved third-party power supplies will grow.
I'll try that because I've got both the Ohio and the Zuma here as well too. So I'll try to practice it with on the HX here. That'll be cool. So that's good to know. But like you say as well too, it will work with some of these other power supplies. But warranty wise and things like that, you can't guarantee anything. You can only guarantee your product.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, how many people actually follow those instructions?
I know.
I mean, everybody's Frankensteining their own amps, and but.
His last question.
We have to make sure we say all of the right things so we don't get sued. So.
Yeah, I got you. Oh yeah, I'll due diligence for sure. His last question was, is it water resistant to 2 meters?
No.
He says in brackets, he puts, I play a lot of mermaid gigs or something like that. So Aaron, he's got to have some great humor. So let's talk about...
it's small enough to probably put into a condom if you really wanted to. So
yeah, it could stretch. I'm sure you had Magnum or something of the sort. I don't think we're going to be practicing that on the show, but you never know. We could try. That might fit. IRs and presets. You looking at the same amount as Helix, or is something condensed there?
No, again, it's there were a lot of hard design decisions, and a lot of things were done for the sake of simplicity. So Helix has 1,024 presets because of the type of product it is. And the customer that it's targeted towards, whereas HX Stomp and HX Effects, 128 presets in HX Effects and 126 presets in HX Stomp because it's 42 banks of 3 presets, so the math doesn't quite get you to 128.
Right.
Seemed to make the most sense. It felt right. If people end up saying, I really need more presets, we can always add them. But we didn't want to overwhelm people with what's effectively a 1.0 firmware too. So,
Gotcha.
And again, because HX Stomp and HX Effects are part of this ecosystem, and once we have Helix Core all wrapped into everything, everything is going to be able to get updated simultaneously. And we're really excited to kind of get over that hurdle so we can really focus on updates instead of housekeeping and architectural hurdles and that sort of thing.
I can appreciate that. One of the things I think some people kind of overlook, but this is a cool feature of this unit, is the fact it's a very small desktop USB audio interface.
Yes, so people on the forums were talking about how it's a 4-in, 4-out. It's not. It's actually an 8-in, 6-out.
Wow, okay.
It's actually 8-in, 8-out, but the 7 and 8 out don't go anywhere yet.
Okay.
We're kind of reserving it for some future things we have planned.
Okay.
But the way it works right now is you have your 2 stereo paths, just like one of the half of a Helix. And each of those stereo paths gets its own USB feed. So path A is on 1 and 2 into your computer. B is 3 and 4 into your computer. But then the physical inputs left and right go out 5 and 6 dry to your computer, and the returns come in and go out 7 and 8 dry to your computer.
Okay.
So you can record both parallel paths in stereo, wet and dry, simultaneously into your DAW if you want.
Fantastic.
And then input 1, 2 from your computer goes through dry, so you can jam along with Spotify or iTunes or whatever. And then 3, 4 is routes dry out the send, I believe. And then 5, 6 is for reamping, and you can set the input block to be USB 5.6 specifically for reamping.
Killer. Absolutely killer. Do you have a power supply kicking around? Daryl Qualls in the chat was asking if he could see the power supply for it. Can you show him one? If you don't have one, that's okay.
I do. This is actually the older DC3G that I think works with Pod.
Okay. Yep.
So the one that comes in the box is actually a little bit bigger than this.
Okay.
So this is smaller. This works, but I think it doesn't pass some sort of weird compliance law in some part of the world or something like that.
Right.
So
okay, good. So very small. So I'll probably answer Daryl's question. And I know we've only got you for about 5 more minutes here. Our friend Brock Davison is asking, where was it? Yeah, he's saying, what is the idea behind only having 6 blocks on Stomp? Was it screen size that made the decision, or coding?
It was a lot of things.
Okay.
So part of it was UI. We didn't want something that was really intimidating and weird and having these little tiny things that you couldn't see. Part of it was navigation. We didn't want to have to navigate all the way across all the time. Some of it was simplicity and elegance, because again, this is for amp and pedal board guys as well, and we didn't want it to vibe as this gigantic crazy modeler that does everything. But the biggest reason, and this sort of ties into how the more block locations you have, the faster you run out of DSP, because you feel like you have to fill them up. It's pretty hard to run out of DSP in HX Stomp because it's limited to 6 blocks. But as we go forward, especially when we're talking about polyphonic pitch stuff, it takes up a lot more DSP.
I bet.
So you're running out of that stuff a lot faster. So, and as we get deeper into amp modeling, it wouldn't be surprising that, amp models start to take up more DSP than some of the existing amp models. So we wanted to make sure that there were the appropriate amount of blocks. Hey, give me a hug. Hey, it's Ben.
Hey, how's it going?
It's Ben.
He was just a regular day in the office.
Yeah.
Nothing weird.
He was just in the chat a second ago. Now he's on screen.
Nothing's going on.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, anyway, just I heard there's some video. Anyway, I just wanted to say hi.
No, this is a normal day, right? This is a normal day for you guys?
Surprised me is that normally happens on Monday. So Thursdays, yeah.
He just knew we were going to be on camera. That's what it was.
Yeah.
There you go.
So six blocks almost feels like it might be too few given how much DSP there is in HX Stomp. It will feel more appropriate in a year, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So we're always thinking way ahead, and we want to make sure that we don't design ourselves into a corner.
Yeah.
Because we've done that in the past long ago, and we see other companies do that too, and it's frustrating. So
I can imagine.
There's method to the madness. If it turns out that people are like, we absolutely need more blocks, we could conceivably go in and try to squeeze that into the UI, but it's just not going to be as elegant. It's going to be weird, and it's going to feel more like Helix, and we didn't want it to feel like Helix. We want it to feel like a Stomp box.
That's right. Because there are going to be some people buying it strictly for that, but there's a lot of us going to be having it as an additional to our Helix, right? So if we want our Helix to do certain things, we want certain things out of it, we'll go use the Helix. And we want something small, travel, or whatever else that we know its limitations, we go with this thing.
Yep.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, so the important takeaway is that we didn't arbitrarily limit it to force people to buy a more expensive product.
Exactly.
We did it because of the product it is, not the price it isn't. So
that's well said. Speaking of price, $5.99 US. Is that right?
US map. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. And availability is basically right this minute.
Yeah. I mean, we've already sold a lot today. And if anybody internationally is wondering about price, just look up how much HX Effects is, and it's going to be that price.
Okay.
So HX Effects and HX Stomp should be. Don't quote me, but it should be the same price wherever you're at in the world. So.
Perfect. Last point here. Brock Davison says, Eric, if you can get polyphonic down into the Helix, would that mean we could possibly get guitar to MIDI conversion and plug guitar into Helix and use any VSTs? Laugh out loud, he says. VST. Yeah.
Polyphonic pitch detection and MIDI conversion?
Yeah.
That's really, really tricky, but I'm not going to say it's impossible.
Okay. There you go. And actually, Matt Ball says, it's like 7 blocks since the gate is on the input, technically, right? So.
Gate is per preset on the input. There's also a global EQ, so that's not going to take up anything, but that's global.
Yeah.
And then obviously there are, if you do a split crossover, doesn't take up one of the 6.
Perfect.
And then your input and output blocks. And so if you need a gain boost, you just use the output block for your gain boost. So
done. Listen, it's 6:54 here Eastern time, so you've got a meeting in 5 minutes. I want to thank you very, very much for your time. I want to say congratulations to you and the team, everyone there. It's a very special day for you, and we're all excited. This Sunday, I've got Jason Sadites, as you know, and actually, is it shipping with 10 of his presets?
It is. It is. Any of the presets that end with JS are his.
Perfect. Jason's going to be here actually in my house this Sunday, so we're doing a Helix Hour dedicated to HX Stomp. We'll be showing the hands-on, running all through. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's nice to actually, I've had him on the show before, but he's going to be physically here. We're only 45 minutes away from one another, so it's going to be fantastic. He's done some killer videos on it already today, and so it should be a lot of fun. So try to tune in on Sunday. Go check it out wherever you can purchase Line 6 products. There's a link in the description down below as well, right to the HX Stomp on your website. Have a look at that and go get one. It's going to be fantastic. Eric, go get to your meeting. We'll let you go. And everyone, we will see you very, very soon. We'll see you on Sunday. Have a great night, everybody. Until next time. Cheers.
Hey, you're still here? Eric Jr. here, reminding you to check out our full lineup of quality merch. Available right now in the Broadstash Boutique. Quality products and fast shipping. Visit broadstash.com today.
Thank you for watching the Helix Hour. We hope you enjoyed today's presentation. An extra special thank you to the staff at Line 6 for their continued support. If you've not yet subscribed, please do so right now and feel free to share our content with your friends. See you next time on the Helix Hour.